The entire village believed she would die before sunrise. Under the cold light of 2 massive moons, the drums began to echo across the jungle. The sound was slow, heavy, final. Everyone knew what it meant. Tonight, the monster would feed. And Princess Lyra was the sacrifice. Her skin shimmered like pale silver-blue crystal under the moonlight. Her long white hair flowed in the wind like threads of starlight. She stood at the center of the stone platform, calm on the outside, but inside, her heart trembled. She was not just any girl. She was the last royal blood of the Ileri. And for generations, the Ileri had made a terrible deal. Deep inside the obsidian caves beyond the jungle lived something ancient. Something enormous. Something that came from the sky long before their ancestors built their first home. The elders called it the Devourer. Every 20 cycles, it demanded a pure offering. If it was not fed, villages disappeared. So Lyra had been chosen. Not because she was weak, but because she was strong enough to accept her fate. She stared at the horizon where the jungle met the dark sky. She wondered if there were other worlds out there, other stars, other futures. She would never know. Then the sky exploded. A streak of fire tore across the heavens, brighter than both moons combined. It screamed as it fell, crashing beyond the trees in a storm of smoke and thunder. The drums stopped. The jungle went silent. Lyra's eyes widened. The elders whispered, "A sign." But Lyra felt something different. Hope. Without thinking, she ran. Through thick vines. Over glowing roots. Past frightened villagers shouting her name. She reached the crash site. A small starship lay broken in the dirt, metal cracked and burning. Symbols she had never seen flickered across its surface. The hatch burst open, and out fell a human. He was tall, broad-shouldered, covered in torn flight armor. Blood stained his sleeve. Smoke rose from his suit. He coughed. Then he looked up. His eyes were blue, sharp, focused, alive. Lyra had seen ancient carvings of humans before, stories from traders who passed through distant systems. They called humans reckless, emotional, unpredictable, dangerous. This one looked like trouble. He tried to stand, and almost collapsed. Lyra rushed forward and caught him before he hit the ground. "You are injured," she said softly. He blinked at her glowing skin. "Well, either I'm dead," he muttered, "or this is the prettiest alien I've ever seen." She did not understand his humor, but she smiled anyway. "My name is Lyra." He winced, holding his side. "Captain Rowan Hale, Human Expeditionary Fleet." She had never heard of such a thing, but she could feel something different about him. Not fear, not surrender, fire. She helped him toward the village before the elders could protest. Behind them, deep inside the caves, something stirred. It had felt the crash. It had felt the human. And it was curious. For 3 days, Rowan recovered inside a healing chamber made of woven biocrystal. Lyra stayed beside him, ignoring the whispers of her people. She learned quickly. Humans did not accept fate. They challenged it. When she told Rowan about the sacrifice, his jaw tightened. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that your people feed a monster because they're afraid." "It protects us," she replied. "No," Rowan said firmly. "It controls you." She had never heard anyone speak like that. He asked questions the elders never allowed. Where did the monster come from? Why only demand sacrifices? Why not destroy the village immediately if it was so powerful? Lyra had no answers. That frightened her more than the monster ever had. On the 4th night, the elders came. "It is time," they said. Lyra stood tall. Rowan stood beside her. "She's not going," he said. Gasps filled the chamber. "You are an outsider," the High Elder snapped. "You do not understand." Rowan stepped forward despite his injuries. "I understand fear," he said. "I understand bullies. And I understand this, if something wants obedience through terror, it can bleed." The elders trembled. You cannot kill it. Rowan gave a slow, confident smile. Good thing I don't fight fair. Later, beneath the twin moons, Lyra met Rowan near the jungle edge. You will die, she whispered. Probably, he admitted. But humans have a habit of surviving things we shouldn't. He handed her a small device from his ship. If something goes wrong, press this. It'll signal my fleet. You think others will come? He looked up at the stars. Oh, they always do. They reached the mouth of the obsidian cave. The air felt wrong. Heavy. Ancient. Inside, something massive shifted. A low, vibrating growl shook the ground. Lyra's knees weakened. Rowan steadied her. Hey, he said gently. You don't belong to this thing. The ground cracked as the creature emerged. It was enormous, covered in dark armored plates. Multiple glowing eyes opened across its head. Its body pulsed with strange energy. It was not just an animal. It was engineered. Rowan's expression changed instantly. Recognition. This isn't a god, he whispered. It's a weapon. The creature roared. Rowan raised his pulse rifle. Good news, he muttered. I've fought worse. The first blast echoed like thunder through the cave. The monster lunged. Lyra screamed. And in that moment, under twin moons and falling sparks, humanity did what it always does when faced with the impossible. It stood its ground. Rowan's first shot did not aim for the monster's eyes. It aimed for the cave ceiling. The pulse blast slammed into the stone above the creature's head, and the roof answered with a crack like the world splitting in half. Dust poured down. Razor shards of obsidian rained like black hail. The monster recoiled, not in pain, but in surprise. Lyra stared. No one had ever surprised it. Rowan staggered sideways, dragging Lyra behind a pillar of rock. His breathing was rough, but his mind was sharp in that terrifying human way, like he was already 10 moves ahead of death. Listen, he hissed. That thing is tracking motion and heat. It's not hunting like an animal. It's scanning. Lyra's throat went dry. Then what is it? Rowan peered around the stone as the creature's many eyes swept the cave. Something built, to keep you afraid. The monster's armored body glowed faintly, lines of energy pulsing under its plates like circuitry under skin. It wasn't just alive. It was powered. The creature let out a low, mechanical growl, and something inside its chest clicked, like a machine arming itself. Rowan's eyes narrowed. Yeah, definitely a weapon. The monster charged. Rowan didn't shoot it. He threw a flare. A small cylinder bounced and exploded into blinding white light, flooding the cave with heat and glare. The creature jerked, its eyes shifting to the flare like hungry cameras. It slammed into the ground where the flare burned, claws gouging stone, tearing at nothing. Rowan grabbed Lyra's hand and ran. They sprinted deeper into the cave system, past narrow tunnels and jagged arches. The air grew colder. The walls changed from natural stone to something smoother, almost polished. Lyra's stomach dropped. This, she whispered, this is not part of the caves. Rowan touched the wall. His glove scraped metal hidden under mineral deposits. Someone buried a facility in here. Behind them, the monster roared again, angry now, not confused. It had realized it had been tricked. Rowan and Lyra burst into a chamber that stole the breath from her lungs. A massive door stood at the far end, covered in unfamiliar symbols. The floor was a grid of metal plates. Old lights flickered overhead like dying stars. In the center of the room sat a structure like an altar, except it wasn't stone. It was technology, and resting on it was a crystal the size of a human head, floating slightly above its base, humming with a sound that felt like a memory. Lyra stepped forward, trembling. The heart of the cave, she whispered. The elders speak of it in riddles. Rowan's voice turned quiet. That's not a myth. The crystal pulsed once, as if responding to him. Then the door behind them boomed. The monster entered the chamber. Up close, it was even worse. Its claws were thick like blades. Its armor had scars from ancient battles. But what terrified Lyra most wasn't the size. It was the emptiness. It had no soul. Only purpose. Rowan pushed Lyra behind the altar. Stay down. Lyra shook her head. It will kill you. Rowan gave her a quick look, half smile, half grim. Not if I embarrass it first. He pulled something from his belt, a small patch-sized device, cracked but functional. He slapped it onto the metal floor. A spider-like drone unfolded, tiny legs clicking, antennae twitching. Lyra blinked. What is that? Rowan whispered, my last good toy. The drone scurried toward the monster, projecting a faint sound, high-pitched, irregular, like static screaming. The creature's eyes snapped toward it, briefly stuttering as if its targeting struggled to lock on. Rowan moved at the same time. He ran toward a wall panel, pried it open with brute force, and jammed his fingers into a cluster of cables. Lyra's eyes widened. You will die. Rowan's teeth clenched. Humans do this thing where we touch wires we shouldn't. A surge snapped through him. His suit sparked. He grimaced, but didn't let go. The overhead lights flared. Then the chamber speakers came alive with an ancient synthetic voice, broken, delayed, but clear enough to chill the blood. Containment protocol, active. The monster froze. Lyra stared. It obeys. Rowan's face lit with fierce satisfaction. Told you. It's a system. Not a god. The floor beneath the monster suddenly shifted. Plates unlocked with a heavy clank, and magnetic restraints rose, bands of metal snapping around its legs like traps closing on a beast. The monster roared and thrashed, but the restraints held, for now. Rowan stumbled back toward Lyra, shaking his burned hand. Okay, he breathed. We have about 30 seconds before it brute forces the locks. Lyra's gaze flicked to the floating crystal. It hummed louder now, almost like it wanted to be touched. What is that? She asked again, voice cracking. Rowan swallowed. I think it's why I crashed here. He pulled a battered data module from his suit and held it near the crystal. The module beeped, then screamed with overload warnings. The crystal pulsed, and a line of light shot outward, forming a holographic map in the air. Lyra gasped. Stars. Roots. Names in languages she didn't know. And one word repeating again and again in multiple scripts, like a signature. Carthane. Rowan's expression went cold. I've heard that name in black market whispers. Lyra turned to him. Who are they? Not a they, Rowan said. A species. Old. Rich. The kind that doesn't conquer with armies, they conquer with fear. The restraints around the monster creaked. Metal groaned. Rowan leaned closer to the hologram, scanning it quickly. This facility, this whole setup, it's a leash. Your monster is a guard dog. It was designed to keep your people primitive. Lyra's chest tightened with rage and grief. We have suffered for generations. Rowan nodded. And someone profited from it. The monster ripped one restraint free. 30 seconds became 10. Rowan grabbed the crystal base. Can you lift it? Lyra reached out, hesitating only a moment. The moment her fingers touched the light, she felt warmth, not heat, but something, aware. The crystal rose into her hands easily, as if it had been waiting for her. The monster lunged forward, tearing the last restraints apart. Rowan shoved Lyra toward a side corridor. Run! They sprinted through a narrow passage as the monster crashed behind them, smashing walls, roaring like a broken engine. They emerged into a tunnel that sloped upward, and Lyra realized with shock that it wasn't carved by nature. It was built. Rowan reached the end first and slammed his shoulder into a sealed door. It didn't move. The monster's footsteps shook the tunnel like an earthquake. Lyra clutched the crystal, desperate. We are trapped. Rowan's eyes scanned the door frame, then he laughed, breathless and wild. What? Lyra demanded. Rowan pointed at a tiny panel beside the door. A biometric reader, ancient but active. This is the funniest part, he said. It doesn't want me. The monster roared again, closer now. Rowan grabbed Lyra's wrist and pressed her palm onto the reader. The panel flashed green. The door opened. Lyra stumbled through, heart hammering. Rowan followed, and the door slammed shut behind them just as the monster crashed into it from the other side. The metal buckled, but held. For now. They found themselves in a forgotten control chamber overlooking the cave system. Dust-covered consoles. Old screens flickered alive as the crystal in Lyra's hands glowed brighter. On the largest screen, a warning message appeared in a language Rowan suit instantly translated. Leash node compromised. Remote response inbound.
Eta 00 Amasaspi Berrogei.
Lyra's face turned pale. Response. Rowan's voice went low. Dangerous. Someone is coming to fix their fear machine. Outside the chamber, the monster began to claw at the door, slow, relentless. Rowan looked at Lyra, then at the crystal, then at the countdown. And in his eyes, Lyra saw something that made her feel both terrified and safe. A human plan. Okay, Rowan said, rolling his shoulders as if preparing for a fight he had no right to win. New mission. Lyra swallowed. What mission? Rowan grinned, tight and fearless. We don't just save you. He tapped the screen where the countdown glowed. We expose them. The sky did not open gently. It shattered. A vertical line of white fire split the clouds above the jungle, stretching from horizon to horizon. Wind blasted outward in a shockwave that bent the treetops flat. The twin moons flickered behind the light as if something larger than them had just stepped into the system. Lyra stood frozen in the control chamber. Rowan did not. He moved. Showtime, he said quietly. The massive holographic screen above them shifted from countdown to live feed. A sleek alien warship emerged from the tear in space. Its surface was smooth, silver-black, shaped like a blade. No visible weapons. No visible windows. It didn't need to show power. It radiated it. Lyra felt something ancient in her blood stir with fear. The Carthane. Rowan nodded. Yeah. And they're not here to negotiate. Below them, the monster kept slamming against the sealed door. Each hit bent the metal inward another inch. It would not stay contained much longer. The alien warship began scanning the planet. Blue beams swept across forests, mountains, oceans. Searching. For the leash node, Rowan muttered. For the crystal. As if responding to his words, the crystal in Lyra's hands pulsed brighter. Not frightened. Awake. A new message appeared on the screen in cold alien script. Primitive containment breach detected. Local species interference confirmed. Eradication protocol under review. Lyra's breath caught. Eradication. Rowan's jaw tightened. That's their version of problem solving. The monster smashed the door again. Metal screamed. Rowan turned toward Lyra. Okay. We've got 3 threats. Big ugly behind door. Big arrogant in orbit. And very limited time. Lyra looked at him, fear and determination fighting inside her. What do we do? Rowan smiled. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't arrogant. It was human. We make this expensive. He rushed to the central console and began tearing panels open. Sparks flew. He rerouted cables, bypassed ancient safeguards, and forced the alien system to respond to him. Lyra stared. You do not even understand their technology. Rowan glanced back at her. Doesn't matter. Every advanced system has one weakness. What weakness? Overconfidence. Another hit. The monster's claw punched halfway through the door. Rowan finally accessed the main broadcast array. He slammed his palm on the console. The holographic map expanded, not just showing the cave facility, but the entire star system. Rowan's eyes lit up. Oh, you idiots, he whispered. What? Lyra asked urgently. They didn't just put a guard dog here. They built a signal amplifier. He pointed at faint lines extending from the facility into deep space. They've been broadcasting fear data. monitoring your civilization, studying obedience patterns. Lyra felt sick. We were an experiment. Rowan nodded slowly. A control group. The monster ripped the door completely off. It charged into the chamber. Rowan spun, grabbed Lyra's wrist, and pulled her behind the console. The creature lunged, but froze mid-stride. The crystal in Lyra's hands glowed intensely. The monster twitched. Confused. Its eyes flickered between red and blue. Rowan looked at Lyra in shock. It recognizes you. Lyra felt warmth spread from the crystal into her chest. Not pain. Not fear. Connection. It was never meant to rule us, she whispered. She stepped forward. The monster growled, but weaker now. The alien warship above began descending toward the atmosphere. Rowan's console flashed another warning. Orbital cleansing array charging. Lyra raised the crystal higher. I can feel it, she said softly. This system was built to obey a primary genetic signature. Rowan understood instantly. And that's you. Lyra closed her eyes. Her people were not primitive. They were chosen. Engineered long ago as administrators of this outpost. Then abandoned. And enslaved by the very weapon meant to protect them. The monster lowered its massive head slightly. Rowan stared in awe. You're not the sacrifice, he said. You're the key. The warship's weapons began glowing in orbit. Energy built in a sphere beneath its hull. Rowan's console screamed warnings. Lyra placed her free hand onto the control panel. The crystal merged with the system. Light exploded outward from the chamber in a wave that traveled through every cable, every buried relay, every satellite in orbit. The monster dropped to one knee. Not in defeat. In command recognition. The warship above flickered as its targeting system suddenly lost lock. On the screen, alien text began flashing rapidly. Authority override detected. Primary colony bloodline confirmed. Command hierarchy re-established. The Carthane ship paused mid-charge. For the first time, it hesitated. Rowan let out a slow breath. Oh, that's beautiful. Lyra opened her eyes. They glowed like twin stars. Her voice echoed, not loud, but absolute. Stand down. The monster turned toward the sky. And roared. Not in rage. In declaration. The orbital ship's energy weapon collapsed. Silence filled space. The Carthane had just been reminded of something they forgot. Colonies evolve. Control slips. And humans. Humans accelerate everything. Rowan leaned back against the console, exhausted but grinning. You just flipped a galactic power structure. Lyra looked at him, overwhelmed. We did. The warship slowly began ascending, retreating from the atmosphere. It had no legal authority to attack now. The system recognized Lyra as rightful commander. Rowan exhaled deeply. Bullies hate paperwork. Lyra laughed softly for the first time since he met her. Below, the jungle village watched as the monstrous silhouette in the sky turned away instead of striking. The twin moons shone brighter than ever. Rowan looked at Lyra. So, Princess, he said casually, what do you want to do with a planet, a weaponized guardian, and a galaxy that just realized you exist? Lyra looked at the horizon. For the first time in her life, she did not see fate. She saw choice. We build, she said. Not with fear. With strength. Rowan extended his hand. Welcome to the human way. She took it. And somewhere deep in space, across silent trade routes and powerful empires, whispers began spreading. A primitive world had just rejected control. A human was involved. And the balance of the sector had shifted. The galaxy had underestimated two things. An alien princess who refused to kneel. And a human who refused to lose.